Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Food for the Faithful channel. I invite all of you to subscribe so that you can keep abreast with all the latest on how to counter the illogic and the foolish rhetoric of what some call the radical left, but is in fact extreme right-wing ideology. I'll tell you why. During the French Revolution, those that sat to the right of the king believed that the king, the executive branch of government, could veto acts of parliament. Those that sat to the left of the king believed that they had the right to veto the king's edicts. That would make every conservative and classical liberal a left-winger, because we don't believe that the executive branch of government should have absolute power, as it does here in Canada, where Trudeau, despite the fact that he has a minority government, controls the entire enchilada. And all those to the right, which would include Nazis, fascists, political Islamists, cultural Marxists, postmodernists, woke ideologues, you name it. All those ideologies that believe in total state control and total economic regulation, they belong to the right of the king, because the government decides for you. You don't decide for yourself. So I just want to point out that the first success that the postmodernists have had, postmodernism is a philosophy that deconstructs the use of language and posits that language is not used really to communicate. Rather, it's used to control. Now, I assure you, I do not wish to control anyone. I hope everyone that I am speaking to will learn to think for themselves and make judgments for themselves based on empirical evidence. That's all I ask for when considering what I say. I don't ask you to believe me. Do the research for yourself. I have, and that's why I record these vodcasts. Postmodernism seeks to deconstruct the very meaning of language. So let's look at why language is important. And a quote from Churchill, the man who knew how to use language. The full quote regarding mobilizing our speech to counter the totalizing rhetoric of would-be dictators like Trudeau occurs in Murrow's introduction to his Churchillian war speech excerpts as Churchill takes office in 1940. Now the hour has come for him to mobilize the English language and send it into battle, a spearhead of hope for Britain and the world. In the wake of the Trump landslide victory, in the wake of the Republicans taking the upper and the lower house, and the wake of so many former Democrats joining him in his administration, as well as Elon Musk, I'm hoping that they will be able to mobilize the English language. Now, the sad thing is, of course, that Trump, although he speaks directly, does not speak well. Many of you are going to take offense at that, but frankly, I judge you by your speech. If you are unable to construct a sentence in the English language correctly, you do not communicate concisely or clearly. You're not able to. I detest these websites that go bombshell new, watch before deleted, Trudeau is finished, the end is nigh, Christ is going to come any second now. He could, but no man knows the hour. And anyone that says they do is a liar. You won't believe this, everything's changed. The fact is, human nature doesn't change. Not at all. That's why it's important to study history. So those that don't want us to study history actually are hoping that we're going to repeat it. Because if you knew anything about what I've just defined as the radical right, what you would call the radical left, if you knew anything about them, they want you to be ignorant of what they've done. They want you to remain utterly in the dark regarding the nature of what they intend to do. Two things have coalesced, and they both come out of the university, out of the humanities departments of our universities. One is postmodern cultural relativism. It says that every culture is equal, except, of course, that of our own. And despite the fact that here in Upper Canada, what was once Upper Canada, I'm in Ontario now, in Ottawa, the first active parliament, before the first parliament sat, I should say, Lieutenant Governor John Graves Simcoe declared that he would have natives of Africa, natives of North America, and natives of Europe treated identically under English common law and have none of them subject to any manner of prejudice the British Constitution does not allow. And then by 1793, due to the Chloe Cooley incident, where some of the Americans who had come to Canada had brought their slaves with them at the end of the Revolutionary War, Simcoe did not approve of this. He wanted to abolish slavery, but the legislature wouldn't allow him. So he passed an act of slavery after a woman was sold back into the U.S. And she went screaming across the river. Chloe Cooley was that woman's name. And he was outraged. So he passed an act of parliament in 1793 in Niagara-on-the-Lake, 15 minutes from where I grew up, preventing slavery from getting its ugly toehold into Canada. He demanded that no one would able to buy or sell their slaves, that when their children turned 21, all of them had to be released. So they couldn't purchase any more slaves, and they had to release the kids when they turned 21. As a result, Harriet Tubman lived in my hometown of St. Catharines, which was the northern terminus of the Underground Railroad, where black folks were brought north out of the bondage of slavery to freedom in Upper Canada. We are being lied to on such a monumental scale. There's not a single aspect of our history that's actually being told truthfully. And all of this has to do with postmodernism. It deconstructs. It says that there is no grand narrative. Now, oddly, postmodernism has blended with cultural Marxist critical theory. That's why all you hear in the schools today are critical race theory, critical gender theory. And thank God President Trump is going right after this, but I'm afraid that he doesn't understand the source of the ideology. These ideologies originated in the academy, they're coming out of the academy, they're being taught to our children, and this is done so at the taxpayer's expense. So look at this. Ontario School played Palestinian protest song in Arabic as its Remembrance Day music. How on earth is it possible that in Canada, which twice went to war to free Europe from tyranny and fought resolutely with our allies during the Cold War, how is it possible that we have surrendered to this idiocy? You'll have the answer. The grand narrative of cultural Marxist critical theory has been blended with something that says there is no grand narrative, postmodernism, that seeks to deconstruct everything. And what we're witnessing is a full-blown deconstruction of our society. I intend to teach you how not to play whack-a-mole with the devil. Because these ideologies have originated, well, in fact, they're satanic. That's what they are. I'm here to help equip Christians and any who will listen and understand that fundamentally the West is built on the idea that the sovereign individual created in the image of God is the basis for Western democracy. It's why we have representative government. The belief that the individual himself and herself is divine. That there's a spark of divinity in all of us, and therefore we're worthy of equal treatment before the law. Not a law that, instead of remaining colorblind, picks and chooses who will be more equal than others. That's the satanic version of equality. So here we see these two ideas, postmodernism and cultural Marxist critical theory, blended. They're Gnostic mysteries. There is no such thing as an irreligious person. All throughout the ages, there is not a single group of humans that did not have an over-vaunting ideological narrative that defined the nature of the universe and man's relationship with it. That is what it is to be a spiritual being. Now, of course, all of these narratives, except the true narrative, are false. But nevertheless, there's no such thing as an irreligious man. That's why the radical, the people you will call the left, they pursue their faith with religious zeal. And they will force compliance. That's the difference between their belief system and ours. Christianity can't be forced on anyone. You have to choose Christ for yourself. You have to choose to come into a saving relationship so that you can know God through Christ, because it is Christ who reveals the Father. That cannot be coerced. It has to be a choice, and it has to come through revelation. You can receive that revelation by inquiring of God to receive it. But you can't be forced into it. Right now, you're going to see a rabid dog. The left now that has been disenfranchised and has been pushed aside. You're going to see attacks from the left that will far exceed anything you've seen to date. The battle isn't over, or the war isn't over, rather. A battle has been won in the U.S. We still aren't rid of Trudeau yet, and God only knows what needs to be done in order for that to happen. I am in my 72nd year, and I cannot believe how low my nation has sank. I don't recognize anything in my own neighborhood here. We have imported our own ruin, as indicated by what happened at that school in Ontario. Palestinian protests on in Arabic played as Remembrance Day. God save us. I pray God save you. Subscribe to this channel. Nothing will ever be hidden behind a paywall. Share it with your friends and dare to tell the truth. I was told the other week that I need to keep my opinions to myself, to keep the good atmosphere. I will not ever be ashamed of Christ. I will not hold back my warnings. Everything I've warned about has come to pass. If you don't believe me, just look back in this channel, my vodcast from years ago, and read my blog page as well. I've I've written about it. I've recorded videos about it. What I've warned about has come true and come true in spades. But moreover, it's come true for the very reasons I've warned. The reason I know these things is because I seek God earnestly. With my whole heart, I long to have the wisdom and the wherewithal to help to see his holy city restored as a praise in the earth unto his name. Consider that as something to think and pray about on this November 12th. God bless you all. I pray that you too come to a saving knowledge of Christ.